reproduction. During mitosis, which is an asexual way of reproduction, the sister chromads will pair up together, and then line up in the center. The spindle fibers will slowly pull the sister chromosomes apart until they're at the end, so like this. Pulled apart because of the spindle fibers, which are right here. The cell will start to split and the spindle fibers are gone. You will eventually end up with 2 cells instead of 1, and this happens in the nucleus. You end up in the nucleus. Once again, mitosis is asexual reproduction. The starting cell in mitosis is like this, with the outside green being the nucleus and the inside gray being the nucleus and the purples being the chromosomes inside. This is how it starts out, and it ends up with 2, as I've shown you before, of exactly the same thing. So that's showing that during asexual reproduction, the offspring will be identical to the mother. In meiosis, the cell starts off just the same as we saw the cell starting off in mitosis. Let me note that mitosis happens in cells that are all around your body, just your regular cell, but meiosis happens in a sperm/egg cell. So next, the homologous chromosomes will line up next to each other just like we saw before, except for this time, instead of there being sister chromads, like I've shown before, they're homologous chromosomes. So, for example, this are HC for homologous chromosomes, and these 2 will be sisters. Step is a lot like mitosis. Sorry, I made a mistake. Just like we've shown before, except for the lines in the middle are 4 chromads wide instead of 2. The next part, the spindle fibers, like we've shown before, will be pulling it apart. And so, note that the sisters are still attached. The homologous chromosomes are being pulled apart. Okay, so the next part is the cell basically splits apart, like we've seen before with these, except for instead of this shape, it's this because it is the sister chromads still together. So the cell is basically split apart, and now you just basically have 2 new cells with the sorry, that wasn't supposed to come too close together. Sister chromads line up together, and the only way this is different from mitosis for the 3 next steps, including this one, is that the homologous chromosomes are in different cells. So next, of course, they line up in the center. And then, like before, they pull their cells apart. And this is for 2 cells. And you will end up with 4 new cells at the end of meiosis, which is sexual reproduction. So here you see you've ended up with 4 cells, and so at the end of this process, the only thing that's different about this from mitosis is that you have 4 cells instead of 2, and that each cell only has 1 out of the 2 homologous chromosomes. So there you go. So, environments in the favor of sexual reproduction, aka meiosis, are a changing environment. So a changing environment or a busy environment, so one that is constantly moving and changing. And then one that has competition, predators, or lots of disease. So that's in a busy environment. So a busy environment could be one where there's competition for who would, competition, or predators. So if the children, I'm going to draw 2 human stick figures, even though we're not really talking about humans at the moment. There would be a predator such as a larger animal. I have no idea what this is. Or lots of disease. And the reason these environments come better is because, for instance, with asexual reproduction, every single child is a copy. So you would have another child that looked exactly like the mother, this one. So this baby would look exactly like the mother. So if one child got sick, let's say this child got sick, then this child would automatically would have a high chance of getting it sick as well, because all the immune systems are exactly alike, unlike with sexual reproduction where they're different. So having 2 parents to take care of the young would definitely be a big advantage to sexual reproduction, along with variation. So variation, that you could have adaptation, you could adapt to the environment you are living in, and you would know how to survive in that environment more than you would during asexual reproduction. And also evolution. Your species could evolve, and so I'm going to draw a picture. So this is a really bad picture of a monkey versus a human, but you can evolve because humans have sexual reproduction, as long as monkeys too, because we evolved from monkeys or apes or whatever. And so therefore we reproduce sexually as well. So if the species is living in an environment that never changes, say a desert, and everything is always the same, then sexual reproduction would favor you. If it's really hard to find a mate, there isn't. As well as living inside of this environment, it will allow you to not have to find a mate. So if you're less mobile, if you're per se a starfish, and you can't move very well, then it'd be much easier for you to reproduce from yourself, so asexually. Also, this will happen much faster. So if you're starfish, then they can reproduce and have many, many, many starfishes and much less time than you would during sexual reproduction. So if your environment, like I've shown before, is a desert, then a harsh, empty, unchanged environment will be really good. The species that usually favor in this one are bacteria, organisms with single cells, because those are the most simple, whereas sexual reproduction is for much more complex species. So just a bacteria would favor much more. So, for example, a species that would reproduce sexually is a bear, because it's going to be really bad drawing of a bear, ancestors reproduce sexually, and they have an easy way of finding a mate. It may take longer, but the female in most cases would choose their mate, the male, and then they would have their children. And because of this, they could watch over the baby bears for much longer. Very Pacific species that would do this is the desert grasslands whiptail lizard. So this lizard is, prepare for another really bad drawing of a lizard that you will probably not think is a lizard at all. Okay, this looks really bad. So let's pretend this is a lizard. This whole entire species is all female, so there are no male. And so they live in deserts and really, really harsh, a very harsh environment. And it's never changing, so you can clue in to see why they would reproduce asexually. Thank you for watching.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.